My name is Zach Wise. I'm currently working for the New York Times and the New York Times Magazine doing multimedia work, which really means a lot of different things. But essentially I work in multiple mediums, whether it be text, photographs, video, interactivity, a way of combining them in storytelling. So. Some interesting recent changes is, really comes from the camera world. Canon and Nikon have introduced cameras, SLRs that shoot video. And this is fundamentally changing the way that we look at reportage online. And the internet is a very visual medium. I mean, I would argue it is the ultimate visual medium. You can visually, it's amazing what you can do. You can do photo, video, text is sort of last, at least in my world. But it's interesting because you have this video style that we've sort of grown used to when it comes to how you get your news. It hasn't been really attractive before. But now these cameras are allowing photographers who have a trained eye and an aesthetic that is much more complicated and developed. Now they're able to start doing video, and they approach it more like a cinematographer than they do, a traditional videographer. So you have a cinematic quality to what's being done. And of course there are growing pains because photographers aren't naturally, they're good at storytelling in a certain sense, but in a continuity sense, there are some growing pains in learning, that you need to shoot this and this and this to make something work. So we're seeing some growing pains, but it's really exciting. Because you have, video online is getting much more beautiful now. It's getting visually rich and interesting and creative, and it seems to have opened up an entire world of possibility. So, we have people like Damon Winter, won the Pulitzer Prize last year. He's now shooting video in Afghanistan. And he was very apprehensive about it. He was nervous about shooting video for the first time, and didn't like it at first. And then all of a sudden he had an aha moment and realized he loves it. I mean, he really likes shooting video now. It's opened up a whole nother way to create and express for him. So he's been reinvigorated by the use of cinematography now. So, these are some of the ways that we're changing, and we're excited about the visual aspect of all of this. Some of the difficulties we encounter with this new way of storytelling are, sometimes a photographer wants to do video, but they're not any good at it. I mean, this happens, and sometimes it's hard for them to recognize the fact that they are not good at it. Because, some of their shots may be beautiful, but they're shaky. And motion is a creative device in video. And when a creative device works against all the other creative devices, it just doesn't hold up to the standard that it should. So we noticed that with some photographers. I won't name any names, of course. But we also noticed that there's a lack of continuity. Photographers are used to shooting towards a photo edit that can span time and space rather dramatically in a series of photographs. And with video, the way the brain works is it needs much more continuity, much more connectivity between each of the images in order for the brain to sort of follow along. So at first you sort of get video that doesn't tie very well together. It seems to be all over the place. But eventually with some coaching that sometimes gets better. But and audio is another big, huge factor in all this. Someone used to say, I can't remember who, that audio is 90% of cinema. Without good audio, nothing holds together. It all falls apart. And so you take a photographer who's never had to deal with that and expect them to do 90% of what they're doing has to be pristine in that category. it's going to take a while, and sometimes it doesn't take. But I hate to see what, at least in the US, a lot of news organizations and in different places are sort of forcing photographers to do video and to do audio. And I really think that's just the wrong approach. Unless the photographer is driven, and they should be driven to an extent, because they are, for the most part, in the editorial sense, storytellers. And this makes them able to stay working easier. They should be driven themselves to want to do this. But I don't think it should ever be forced upon them. And unfortunately it is. And it's undermining the quality of their own photography as well as the medium of video.